You're such a gullible idiot, Brittany. The words hit me like a physical blow as I stood frozen in the doorway of the apartment I was paying for. My sister Ashley stood in the center of a crowd of laughing strangers, wearing an $800 dress I had bought her, describing in vivid detail how she manipulated me. The bass from the stereo thumped against my chest, but all I could hear was her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. She actually thinks I'm going to get a job. Why would I need to work when I have a cash cow for a sister? The laughter that followed felt like acid in my veins. 20 faces turned toward me as someone finally noticed my presence. The music died. The room went silent. Ashley's triumphant grin melted into horror. How had it come to this? 3 months earlier, on that sunny Saturday afternoon, I had been so proud of what I'd built. At 28, I had everything I'd worked for, a prestigious job, excellent salary, and my own apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, bought with money I'd earned through years of grinding 12-hour days and weekend overtime. My parents had always taught us that success came through sacrifice. I remember Dad coming home exhausted from his 2 jobs, his hands stained with grease from the auto shop, still managing to smile when he saw us. Mom would stretch every dollar, mending our clothes instead of buying new ones, making meals from whatever was on sale. They'd given everything so Ashley and I could have opportunities they never had. But somewhere along the way, Ashley had learned a different lesson. When she appeared at my door that Saturday, something felt off. Her eyes swept my apartment with an intensity I'd never seen before, as if she was cataloging everything, calculating its worth. Your place is so nice, Brit. You're so lucky. Lucky. The word made my jaw clench. I thought about every morning I dragged myself out of bed at 5 a.m., every client meeting where I'd smiled through condescension, every promotion I'd fought for while watching less qualified men get handed what I had to claw for. Lucky, Ashley? I worked my ass off for this place. But then came the tears. Ashley had always been beautiful when she cried, her green eyes huge and luminous, her lower lip trembling just so. It was a weapon she'd perfected in childhood, one that had always worked on our parents. I can't take it anymore, living with Mom and Dad. They're suppressing all my aspirations for independence. The words sounded rehearsed, like lines from a self-help book. Later, I would learn that's exactly what they were. Ashley had always been the baby, 7 years younger and treated accordingly. While I was working summer jobs at 15, she was getting driven to dance classes and piano lessons. While I was studying for the SATs, she was complaining that doing the dishes was unfair because it might damage her nail polish. Mom and Dad had created a princess, and now that princess was 23 and discovering that the real world didn't offer the same royal treatment. According to Dr. Martinez's book on adult-child-parent relationships, this is classic codependency. She pulled out her phone, reading from what I now realize was probably a Google search. The manipulation was so transparent it should have been laughable, but the desperation in her voice seemed real. Maybe that's what got to me. The thought that underneath all the princess behavior, there might be a real person trying to break free. I need your help, Brit. I want to move out, but I need money for the first 3 months of rent. I'll find a job right away and then I'll be completely self-sufficient, just like you. Just like you. Those 3 words wrapped around my heart like a noose. Every older sibling knows that feeling, the weight of being the example, the responsible one, the one who's supposed to know better. I said yes. The squeal that followed could have shattered glass. Ashley threw herself at me with such force we nearly fell over, and for a moment, I felt that warm glow of being needed, of being the successful big sister who could solve problems. It was the last pure moment of happiness I would have with my family. A week later, Ashley burst through my door with her phone in hand, scrolling through apartment listings that made my blood pressure spike. Riverside Towers. $2,800 a month. Marble countertops and rooftop pools. Ashley, these places are completely out of the question. I pulled up a modest one-bedroom I'd found, clean and furnished, in a safe neighborhood within walking distance of potential employers. It was nicer than my first apartment had been, a studio above a bakery where the smell of yeast was so constant I stopped noticing it after a month. The face Ashley made when she saw my suggestion looked like she'd bitten into something rotten. But it's so basic. Basic. As if basic was a curse word. As if the apartment our parents had shared for 30 years, with its second-hand furniture and single bathroom, was something to be ashamed of. I should have seen it then, the entitlement that had been growing in her like a tumor, fed by years of never having to want for anything. But I was still holding on to the hope that this was just inexperience, that once she saw how the real world worked, she'd adjust her expectations. We took the basic apartment. I wrote the checks while Ashley signed the lease, her pen scratching across the paper with the reluctance of someone signing their own death warrant. The phone calls started immediately. Every few days, Ashley would call to update me on her job search, but her answers became increasingly vague. How did the interview at the retail store go? Oh, that wasn't really a good fit for me. What about the receptionist position? The hours didn't work with my schedule. What schedule? She wasn't working. She wasn't going to school. What possible schedule could conflict with a 9-to-5 job? But every time I pressed, she'd deflect or hang up, leaving me staring at my phone with a growing knot in my stomach. 3 months passed like a countdown to disaster. I was buried in a project at work when Ashley called, her voice casual as if she was commenting on the weather. Just reminding you that rent's due by the 15th. You'll need to transfer money for the next 3 months. The audacity took my breath away. Ashley, we had an agreement. You were supposed to get a job and start paying your own rent. I haven't found the right position yet, but I'm totally on my way to it. These things take time, you know. The right position. As if she was a Fortune 500 CEO instead of a 23-year-old with no work experience who couldn't be bothered to take a retail job. For the first time, I said no. For 15 minutes, it felt like victory. Then Mom called. Brittany Marie Thompson, how dare you refuse to help your sister? The full name. The tone that had made me feel like I was 6 years old and had broken something valuable. Mom's voice carried the weight of every guilt trip she'd ever mastered, every disappointment she'd ever expressed, every way she'd ever made me feel responsible for everyone else's happiness. She called me crying. Family helps family. That's what we do. But what about helping me? What about recognizing that I'd already given thousands of dollars, taken time off work for apartment hunting, and spent countless hours worrying about Ashley's future? When did my needs start to matter? The questions burned in my throat, but they stayed unspoken. They always did. Do you want her to end up homeless? Is that what you want to see your sister out on the street? The manipulation was so familiar it felt like slipping into old clothes. This was how it had always been in our family. Ashley would mess up, cry, and suddenly I was the villain for not fixing it. When she failed her driving test 3 times because she wouldn't study, somehow it became my fault for not helping her practice more. When she got suspended from school for cheating, I was selfish for not tutoring her. The pattern was so ingrained that resisting it felt like swimming against a riptide. Fine. I'll pay for 3 more months. But that's it. This is the last time. That's my girl. I knew you'd do the right thing. The right thing. As if enabling Ashley's refusal to grow up was somehow morally superior to letting her face consequences. I transferred the money and sent Ashley a text, rent paid for 3 more months. This is absolutely the last time. I mean it. Her response was a single emoji, a smiling face with a halo. The innocence of it felt like mockery. A week later, scrolling through Instagram before bed, I made a discovery that changed everything. Ashley's profile had transformed into something unrecognizable. Photo after photo showed her lounging in the apartment I was paying for, posed like some kind of lifestyle influencer. Living my best authentic life. Being true to yourself is the greatest gift. Sometimes you have to choose your own path. Trust the journey. Each caption was more infuriating than the last. The journey I was funding. The path I was paving with my own money. The authentic life built on lies and manipulation. Not a single mention of job hunting. Not one word about becoming self-sufficient. Just endless selfies and pseudo-philosophical garbage about following dreams while someone else paid the bills. I opened our message thread and typed, "When are you actually going to start looking for work?" The response came immediately, a photo of an official-looking email with a company letterhead. A job interview invitation, complete with date, time, and location. Relief flooded through me. Finally. Maybe she was getting serious. Then my phone rang. "Did you see it? I got an interview. But Brit, I need your help with something really important." The words, "I need your help," had become a trigger, sending ice water through my veins every time I heard them. I need to look professional for the interview. First impressions are everything. I need some nice clothes and a trip to the salon. $800 should cover everything. $800. For one interview. More than most people spend on clothes in a year. Absolutely not. Please, Brit. This could be my big break. The receptionist is the first person who sees you, and they always report back to the hiring manager. I read about it online. 10 minutes of begging. 10 solid minutes of promises and emotional manipulation, wearing down my defenses like water on stone. Fine. But this is absolutely the last time. You're the best sister ever. I love you so much. I transferred the money, hating myself a little more with each keystroke. A few days later, I called during my lunch break to ask about the interview. What interview? My stomach dropped into my shoes. The interview you needed the $800 for. Oh, that. Yeah, about that. I went to check out the company and honestly, Brit, it just wasn't for me. The position was super boring, just data entry and filing. I'd die of boredom in a job like that. I need something more creative. Something more creative. She needed something more creative while I worked 60-hour weeks at a job that was slowly grinding my soul into dust, all so she could live her creative dreams on my dime. The rage that had been building for months finally boiled over. You're not in a position to be picky. You haven't worked a day in your life and I'm not going to support you forever while you wait for your dream job to fall into your lap. Sorry, Brit, I've got to go. Waiting for a super important call. The line went dead. I pulled up Instagram with shaking hands, and there it was, Ashley in a sparkling party dress that had obviously cost every cent of the money I'd given her. Life is a party. Dress like it. I tried calling back. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting. No response. By the time I left work, I was so furious I couldn't see straight. Instead of going home, I drove to her apartment, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I could hear the music from halfway down the block. A full-blown party on a Wednesday night, in the apartment I was paying for, funded by money I'd given her under false pretenses. I still had the spare key from when I'd helped her move in. My hand shook as I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and saw 20 strangers dancing and drinking in the space I was subsidizing. And there was Ashley, in that expensive dress, dancing like she didn't have a care in the world. The music cut off just as I was about to confront her, and in the sudden silence, I heard my sister's voice carrying across the room. You guys want to know the best part? My sister, my rich, successful sister Brittany, she pays for all of this. The words hit me like a physical assault. Every person in that room was learning what a fool I was, how easily I'd been manipulated, how pathetic my attempts to help had been. She actually gave me $800 for interview clothes. Can you believe how stupid she is? Stupid. The word echoed in my head as laughter erupted around the room. 20 strangers laughing at my gullibility, my naivety, my desperate desire to believe my sister could change. And get this, she actually thinks I'm going to get a job. Like, why would I need to work when I have a cash cow for a sister? All I have to do is cry a little about wanting to be independent and she throws money at me. More laughter. More confirmation that everything I'd done out of love had been nothing but a joke to her. I swear, Brittany actually believes all that crap about me wanting to be independent. Your sister would never fall for this. That's because your sister isn't a gullible idiot. The cruelty in her voice was breathtaking. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about complete contempt for the person who had tried to help her, who had believed in her when no one else would. Someone finally noticed me standing there. The realization spread through the room like wildfire. The laughter died. Ashley followed their gazes and saw me. The transformation on her face was almost comical. The smug confidence melted into pure terror as she realized she'd been caught. I walked to the center of the room, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Every eye was on me as I stopped where she'd been performing her little show. So this is what you really think of me. This is how you treat someone who's tried to help you. You lie to me, manipulate me, steal from me, and then laugh about it with your friends. You think I'm a fool. The silence was deafening. People were already gathering their things, trying to escape the awkwardness. Then Ashley's shock wore off, and I saw something that chilled me to the bone. Not remorse. Not embarrassment. Calculation. What are you going to do about it? You'll keep supporting me anyway. You know why. Because if you don't, I'll just tell mom and dad, and you know whose side they'll take. They always do. They'll make your life hell until you help your poor little sister again. She was right, and we both knew it. This was the family dynamic we'd lived with for 28 years. Ashley messes up, I fix it, and everyone pretends that's normal. But something had shifted in me, standing in that room full of strangers who had been laughing at my expense. Something fundamental had broken and rearranged itself into something harder, stronger. I didn't say another word. I turned and walked out, my head held high as the music started up again behind me, as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Everything had changed. The next 3 months passed in blessed silence. No calls from Ashley. No guilt trips from mom. No demands for money or explanations or emotional labor. It was the calm before the storm, and I knew it. The storm broke with a text message, rent's due for the next quarter. Need money for food and clothes too. Send ASAP. The audacity was breathtaking. After everything that had happened, she was still treating me like her personal ATM. I typed back, no. I'm not paying anything else for you ever. My phone immediately started buzzing with incoming calls. I watched Ashley's name flash across the screen again and again, feeling strangely calm as I ignored each attempt. Then mom called. Brittany, we need to have a serious conversation. Come to the house tomorrow after work. I knew what awaited me. I'd walked into this ambush before, but never with such clear eyes. Ashley was sitting on the couch when I arrived, no makeup, hair pulled back messily, looking every bit the suffering victim. Mom and dad flanked her like bodyguards. The performance began before I'd even closed the door. How could you do this to your sister? She's about to be evicted because of you. Dad's voice carried the weight of 30 years of disappointment, every time I'd failed to live up to his expectations of what a big sister should be. She's barely eating, she's so stressed, Mom added, as Ashley sniffled on cue. I looked at my family, really looked at them, and saw the pattern with crystal clarity. Dad, who had worked himself into an early heart attack trying to provide for us, now demanding I sacrifice my financial security for Ashley's comfort. Mom, who had given up her own dreams to raise us, now expecting me to give up mine to enable Ashley's refusal to grow up. And Ashley, 23 years old and still playing the helpless child because it had always worked before. Are you kidding me? I've paid her rent for 6 months. I gave her money for clothes, for food, and she used it to throw parties and buy party dresses. Then she bragged to her friends about what a fool I was. She was just joking around with her friends, Mom said dismissively. You're being too sensitive. Joking. As if humiliating me in front of strangers was just harmless fun. You're the older sister, Dad cut in. It's your responsibility to help her. We raised you better than this. My responsibility. Not Ashley's responsibility to be honest, or to try to support herself, or to show basic respect for the person helping her. Mine. Always mine. I looked at Ashley, sitting there with that small, satisfied smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She thought she had me cornered. She thought I would cave, just like every other time. No. I'm done. I'm not giving her another cent. She's an adult. If she wants to live independently, she can pay her own bills like the rest of us. The explosion that followed was spectacular. Dad yelling about family responsibility. Mom crying about how she'd raised such a selfish daughter. Ashley's theatrical sobs that had worked so well for so many years. I walked out without another word, drove home through a blur of angry texts and voicemails I never read. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt truly free. Free from the manipulation. Free from the guilt. Free from the endless demands that had been slowly draining my life away. The aftermath was predictable. My cousin Jackie called a few weeks later with updates. Your parents are paying Ashley's rent now. They had to take money out of their retirement fund to cover it. She still hasn't even looked for a job. 2 months of peace. Then Mom called with news that made my blood run cold. Ashley had been selling the apartment owner's furniture to pay for her parties. When he discovered the theft during a noise complaint, he threatened to press charges unless everything was repaid. Please, Brittany, we need your help. Your father and I don't have enough after covering her rent. No. I warned all of you what would happen if you kept enabling her. This is the result of how you raised her, making excuses for everything she does, never letting her face consequences. How can you be so heartless? She made some mistakes, but she's family. Mistakes. As if stealing furniture was just an oopsie, a minor miscalculation rather than a crime. Maybe facing real consequences is exactly what she needs. If you ever loved your sister, goodbye, Mom. I hung up on my mother for the first time in my life. Jackie called a week later with the final update. My parents had cashed out what remained of their retirement fund to pay off the apartment owner. Ashley had been evicted and moved back home. She still wasn't working. She was still posting inspirational quotes about weathering life's storms. That was 6 months ago. Nothing has changed. Ashley still lives with our parents, still doesn't work, still posts about living her truth. Mom and Dad had to postpone their retirement, but they haven't learned their lesson. They're still supporting her, still making excuses. I haven't spoken to any of them since that last phone call. I see posts from extended family about holiday gatherings I'm not invited to anymore. I hear through Jackie about the stories they tell, painting me as the villainous older sister who abandoned her family. But here's what I've learned, sometimes being the bad guy means you're the only one brave enough to stop the madness. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their actions. And sometimes family isn't about enabling bad behavior. It's about having the courage to say no when everyone else is saying yes. even if it costs you everything you thought you knew about the people you love.